if you know where an employee gets their pay decreased.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I was a business owner. I recently sold my share, so I don't own it anymore, but there are plenty of businesses out there, especially those that depend on employees' productivity, like I was in the trades. So I owned a company that was a tile setting company, and if we didn't get out there and do the work, and if I didn't have highly productive employees, they were paid based on their productivity. So if they had issues, it is very possible that their pay would reflect those issues. If they were on probation for something, for some sort of violation, that could be coordinated with a pay reduction. It's something that businesses do all the time, and it could be the step before someone is actually fired. So it's
that truth bomb. Omar appeared caught off guard. The laughter wasn't mocking. It was recognition. Recognition that ivory tower ideas about work often crumble when they meet someone who's met a payroll. This isn't about left or right. It's about basic economics. You can't regulate a company into prosperity by ignoring how value is actually created.
Representative O'Neill, I'm just wondering, as a union member for a long time, and I've also gotten an opportunity to work in the private sector, and I'm curious to know if you know of any employer that has a provision where they decrease pay for employees. I find that a little strange, and so I just wanted to know where that thought comes from, and if you know where an employee gets their pay decreased.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I was a business owner. I recently sold my share, so I don't own it anymore, but there are plenty of businesses out there, especially those that depend on employees' productivity, like I was in the trades. So I owned a company that was a tile setting company, and if we didn't get out there and do the work, and if I didn't have highly productive employees, they were paid based on their productivity. So if they had issues, it is very possible that their pay would reflect those issues. If they were on probation for something, for some sort of violation, that could be coordinated with a pay reduction. It's something that businesses do all the time, and it could be the step before someone is actually fired. So it's an important thing, and it gets people's attention, when they see it in their paycheck that their performance does not meet the standard.
Representative Omar.
Hudson, I think did you have something?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Hudson. Was there a question for Mr. Hudson?
No, I think he was saying that he wanted to add something, so I didn't know if he had something to add.
Mr. Hudson, is there a response to the question? Do you have a response to that question?
Madam Chair, yes,
Are you
ma'am.
saying that you aren't aware of any businesses that decrease pay? Because that was the question.
Madam Chair, I think what Chair O'Neill perhaps could be referring to, there are some instances where the pay structure is different. So for an example, she'd indicated that she had come out of the towel industry. I'm not sure if these were commissioned employees who may have been on like an 80-20 split. In that instance, there is a situation where a pay might be reduced. Or if we have a supervisor who perhaps had a performance improvement issue or a behavioral concern, and we demoted this supervisor, that is an instance where pay might be decreased. But just an employee who has not been under some sort of performance improvement program, having their pay reduced, I've never heard of that.
Well, Mr. Hudson, I think Representative Neal knows exactly what she says. And I think we've had a little conversation back here when the question was asked. I know Representative Uglem, do you want to speak to that point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Omar, if you happen to be a salesman in this world, and you can be selling cars, you could be selling siding, you could be selling just about anything, and you are paid on commission. So if you don't sell anything, you don't make anything. So you can have good years, you can have bad years. Probably really one of the best examples is a real estate agent. So it's the idea that people can make less money year to year, not to mention all the bonus situations that are out there in industry. It happens. It happens a lot. It doesn't necessarily happen, here in the public sector, but it's pervasive and very, very common in the private sector. Thank you.
And I'd like to add that in the private sector as well, people, if they are not performing at their job, get demoted, and with that demotion comes a pay cut. And that's not even related to being in a commission position, that's just in a regular position as well. Representative Omar.
I think a commissioned position is very different than what we are discussing today.
Representative Omar, I mentioned the fact that it's not just limited to commission. It's also for anybody that is demoted. So you
In a
can
recent House Education and Workforce Committee hearing, a former business owner turned the tables on Representative Ilhan Omar so effectively that the entire room erupted in laughter. This wasn't some gotcha moment staged for social media. It was a raw collision between Washington theory and real-world business experience. Let's set the scene. Omar, as ranking member on the Workforce Protection Subcommittee, is questioning witnesses about labor rules, compensation, demotions, and worker protections. She's pressing on what sounds like a push for more standardized pay or restrictions on how businesses handle performance. Then steps up this sharp businesswoman, a former owner who recently sold her company. Omar tries to corner her on some point about fairness in pay or job classifications. The witness doesn't flinch. She calmly explains that a commission position is very different and that real rules around demotions and performance apply in the actual economy. Boom! The room loses it. Laughter echoes because she's stating the painfully obvious. Businesses aren't government offices. Pay and roles are tied to results, productivity, and market reality, not just bureaucratic checkboxes. Deeper divide in how we think about work in America. On one side, you have policymakers who often view employers as potential oppressors that need constant regulation to protect workers. On the other, people who've actually run businesses know that sustainable jobs come from profitability, accountability, and flexibility. Performance-based pay, commissions, and yes, sometimes demotions or adjustments aren't punishments. They're how companies survive and reward high performers. Look, Ilhan Omar is a vocal, progressive voice who fights passionately for her vision of worker rights. That's her role. But hearings like this are supposed to inform policy with real testimony, not just score political points. The businesswoman's response reminds us why listening to entrepreneurs matters. They've navigated taxes, regulations, hiring risks, and customer demands. Their perspective isn't theoretical, it's survival tested. In today's economy, with inflation pressures, AI disruption, and shifting labor markets, we need more of these exchanges, not fewer. Over-regulating performance and compensation risks, killing the very jobs policymakers claim to protect. The laughter in that room was the sound of common sense breaking through. At the end of the day, this clip went viral for a reason. It shows the power of lived experience over ideology. Kudos to that businesswoman for keeping it professional, factual, and devastatingly effective. Congress could use more voices like hers. What do you think? Does this reflect a bigger disconnect in Washington? Drop your thoughts below.